Chimigwech, what an honor to go ahead and to see our indigenous people. It happens just like that, where you get a song in your heart, you want to share it, and with our native culture, we can go ahead and do that. Teachings that are learned from an elder, that are shared with a mother, and given to a daughter. That's the strength of our people. And that is part of the journey of forgiveness, to share these traditions, to share this medicine, and to share this song. To go ahead and to look at these issues, however, sometimes we have to look backwards. And looking backwards can be painful. They call it historical trauma. And certainly with the boarding schools, there's a lot of that. We have a brother from the Apache Tiwa Nation that's going to be sharing with us some of his insights on the importance of being able to recognize historical trauma and be able to work through it in a good way, in a traditional way, in a healing way. And at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Eduardo Duran to come and to speak on this subject. Dr. Duran.
Good morning. And to quote Gandhi, who was introduced once, he said that was very flattering, and it would be even more flattering if it was true. Name's Eduardo Duran, Apache Tewan Lakota, and born to Italian on the mother's side. Because of the occasion and what we're here for today, the healing of the soul, I'll also identify with my spiritual name as Teoshpai Wahapia. And that way, all of the ancestors that are here recognize me and survival. And over the many years that I've been doing work as a clinical psychologist in Indian country, I've heard a lot of these stories, a lot. And I tell people don't come to me usually to tell me how wonderful their life has been. Usually is to tell me the terrible things that have happened. And during that time, I was able to learn a little bit of what's going on. And I was very fortunate that during my training as a psychologist that I also had a native teacher that took me aside. It's through those teachings that I was able to get a little bit of a glimpse into some of the natural law and some of the mystery that underlies all the things that we're talking about. And I'm really surprised to be here because as of last Saturday evening, I didn't even know I was going to be here. And I was called and here I am. And for forgiveness, that's not something that comes easy to me or to most human beings, I don't think. And as I was kind of contemplating on the meaning of that, one of the first things that came to mind is something that a very powerful medicine man said about 2,500 years ago. And his name is Yeshua. And most of you know him as Jesus Christ. And he taught his followers to forgive trespasses as we are forgiven. And I thought as many times as that prayer has gone through all levels of our culture and the world, it really is real. It is really meant to be taken literally. So to forgive. And what does that actually mean? But first I want to talk a little bit about this word trauma. And early on when I first started doing my work, and I was actually in Central Valley, California, as a graduate student. And my assignment was to develop a needs assessment for the particular tribes that I was working with. And I started doing it, accumulating all this data as to what's wrong and what's ailing the communities. And when I started kind of writing this stuff up, some of the older people in the community took me aside and they said, well, none of that is real, none of that is true. And at that time I thought, well, there must be a real denial system in this community, because I could see with my own eyes that there was a lot of problems. And it's the usual problems that Brother Don and other people have mentioned this morning, the problems of violence, anger, alcoholism, suicidality, and the physical problems, the diabetes, and all of that. And so I asked usually I do my work by just asking the simplest questions that I can ask. And most of the time it's either why or what is the problem. And at that time they said some words that were really didn't mean a whole lot to me because they're not in the mainstream of psychological thinking. And they said our problem is that our soul has been wounded. And other people say our spirit has been wounded, and that is the problem. And of course, going into the psychological literature and all of that, and realizing that the word soul and spirit really doesn't exist within the context of the Western medical models of healing. And also, what's really interesting is that most Native people are stuck in having to utilize those models of healing, the Western medical model. And so there's a real misfit. The situation just doesn't fit. And as I was hearing about the boarding school, the chopping off the fingers, that really grabs the heart. And one of the first instincts in the human heart is to react to that. And a lot of times the reaction is get upset and angry, and a lot of times that sticks to us. But as I was seeing the pictures of our youngsters there at the boarding school, there's already several levels of trauma that they were carrying with them. And this is one of the crucial things that I hope I can leave with you today, is that we have found, and this has actually been researched now by researchers, so now that empirical studies have been done, people believe it's real. We knew it was real before the studies were done. And what the historical trauma or soul wounding teaches us is that when you're wounded, when you're hurt, if you don't heal that wound or that hurt, it stays, and that makes sense. But the other part of the equation is that it gets passed on to the next generation if you don't take care of it. And not only that, then it also becomes cumulative. And so by the time that these little kids were going to Carlisle, they probably already had 3 or 4 levels of historical trauma that they were carrying with them into the boarding school. And so then you add another horrific wounding to the process.